The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, Dr. Rudy Kachmann. Welcome to my show here. This is about stopping, preventing, reversing diabetes, which is a chronic disease that's existent probably in 70 to 90% of the people. That common. A lot of people say, well, I'm not diabetic, but they had the wrong tests. I see this commonly. So testing, you are what your tests are. So I encourage you to get properly tested. I mean, if you're overweight, for example, 90% chance you're diabetic. Your doctor may say, well, I've been tested, I don't have it. But I'm going to tell you, if you have not had a serum insulin test, that anticipates diabetes 10 to 15 years before when it occurs. What a wonderful thing that would be. It'd be a lot easier to lose 5 pounds than 150. I also would like to mention that 20% of the people who are of normal weight have type 2 diabetes anyway. Yeah, that's the reason testing is important. So just because you're a thin person, say, oh, I can't have diabetes, I have normal weight. Wrong. You need to be tested properly. What's my motivation here? Is because I can stop it, prevent it, reverse it 90% of the time, and very quickly you can get rid of diabetes, which is the cause of the majority of these illnesses, which I'm going to review in a minute, quickly, and add 20, 30 years to your life. There are parts of this country, like Dr. Gundry, Stephen Gundry, cardiologist, one of the books I have here, which I'll hold up later, lives for many years, lived by Loma Linda University outside of Los Angeles, and he wondered that a certain racial group, that there wasn't any man living there older than age 70. And the reason is they're all diabetic. But he decided to do something about it. Wrote books, quit doing surgery, and now he's teaching full-time how to stop, prevent, reverse diabetes. So what are a lot of the illnesses that are caused by type 2 diabetes? We get type 1, where you have no insulin. Type 1 is seen more commonly in children, but also when the pancreas gets worn out, is seen in type 2. So 90% of diabetes is type 2. Type 1 is where the pancreas is knocked out from autoimmune disease. A significant amount of that could be a gluten allergy. People don't realize that, but 10% of the people can be sensitive to gluten, and gluten is a protein, and the body can react to it and wipe out the pancreas. You have no insulin. And type 1 diabetics generally are thin, lose weight quickly, vomiting, diarrhea, gut problems, and many of them die if nothing was done. Insulin, which has been available since around 1920 or so. We first used to get it from animals, and finally we could make it. And now it's made by a number of companies, but if you really study it, and I can show you in books, that insulin takes sugar and stuffs it in the cell, and the cells get fat. You notice most diabetics are even more overweight after they start taking insulin than before. So you need to study that a little bit. If you look at some other lectures, I explain that in more detail. But let's kind of look at the chronic diseases causes to diabetes, which are preventable. Blindness, retinal changes, visual loss, cataracts. Most, I'd say 70% of dementia, memory loss, is from diabetes. It has to do with the metabolism of insulin and sugar in the brain. You need to read about that. So when they say, well, you got Alzheimer's disease, they never check to see if you get diabetes. When you can prevent most of dementia, if we prevent, reverse diabetes, we could prevent most of the dementia we're seeing around. Let's continue. Strokes, for example. Diabetes affects the vasculature of the whole body, especially the small vessels. The smallest one of all, the ear. A lot of vertigo, a lot of tinnitus, a lot of hearing loss is from diabetes. Yet, if you go to a hearing doctor, many times they don't really check to see if you got it. Retinal disease, I went to a couple of ophthalmologists, eye doctors who do retinal surgery. Those diseases are caused by diabetes over 20 years ago. I told them, I said, most of the people that get your diseases have diabetes. How about joining me in an effort to bring this to the attention of the medical community, and we could help people avoid these diseases. They never did anything. And these are well-known, well-liked people in town. Yeah. So let's use a Lions Club. They're all over the world. They give out glasses all over the world. You know what's happened in the last few years? They found out most of the people they were giving their glasses to were diabetics. And they told me about it, and they take an interest in what I teach. So I went to one of their meetings, and I found out at the meeting, a lot of the people at the meeting were diabetics. And people need to be open-minded, so but they are partially. I still haven't got accomplished my mission there. I brought it up to Rotary too, who are working on the polio epidemic, but that epidemic is pretty gone. Diabetes is all over the world, China, India. It's a huge opportunity to help people. That's what I'm interested in. I've been to the hospitals, and they just kind of stare at you. And maybe it's because what they're treating in the hospital is complications of diabetes. Let's continue on this trip. Dental disease, almost all dental disease is from sugar metabolism. That's what causes the bacteria eating away at your enamel and your gums. Sugary food is what causes most dental disease, which I learned the hard way. I didn't know it the day I was born. So now I brush my teeth 2 to 3 times a day. That's helped a lot. I need a cleaning now and then, and I don't eat sugary foods. Okay, I'm 39 for the 46th time, weigh 135 pounds, take no pills. Am I bragging? No, but if I'm going to teach something, I ought to practice it, because that may prove that I believe it, okay? Thyroid disease, heart attacks. It's not unusual that 50% of people who die of heart disease grab their chest and they're dead. No warning. No chest pain, angina or something, no warning. They go like this and they're dead. Many are indeed diabetics. So to get proper testing by getting a blood sugar and a serum insulin, I would also get a GFR, glomerular filtration rate. 80% of renal disease is from diabetes. Yet these dialysis centers want to dialyze you, they want to give you a new kidney, but what's the lifespan of these people? We want to prevent their disease. Kidney disease, there's 5 stages to it, and the first 3 stages generally have no symptoms. So get a GFR, glomerular filtration rate, and that's a figure that's accumulation of sodium and potassium electrolytes in your blood and your height and your weight. That leads to the GFR. But a good way to test yourself, are my kidneys working? If they're not, you may have diabetes. A lot of liver disease. Liver transplants are done now having to be done because of fatty liver. And what is fatty liver due to? If you have diabetes and the insulin pushes the sugar into the cell and the cell's fat, but the cells can't deal with it, they send it to the liver, you get fatty liver, and you get fatty liver long enough, the liver dies. You need a transplant, which don't work that great, but there's some hope, but there's a lot of trouble. 80% of kidney disease I told you about. A lot of cancers, over half of cancers are due to elevated to abnormal metabolism of fats and sugar in your body. Cancer is a sugar feeder. Otto Warburg established that in 1934. It takes 13 molecules of sugar to make 1 ATP, the energy molecule, okay, versus 1 and 1. So the more sugar that you eat, the odds of cancer go up, especially colon cancer. Would be a good example. Breast cancer would be a good example. All types of cancers, kidney cancers, liver cancers, bowel cancers, colon cancers, much more likely if you have a lot of sugar in your body. Because you're overweight and because of inflammation, hip arthritis, knee arthritis, much more common in diabetics, can be avoided. Amputations, dislocations, microvascular disease, chopping off your toes, your ankles, walking with your joints dislocated. Can you imagine your ankle is dislocated and you're having to walk on that? Diabetes causes a lot of that. 200,000 people a year get their legs amputated. Could be avoidable 95% of the time. That's why I'm kind of passionate about preventing, stopping, reversing diabetes. Uterine cancer is commonly seen in diabetics. Impotency, because of microvascular disease, commonly seen in diabetics. And I could go on and on. You can get a copy of this from my office or email me, I'll get it to you. These are the complications of diabetes. You don't want these. Follow my YouTube, my radio. I even see people for free on Fridays. And you can call Kelly Marvin, who teaches cooking. Cooking is the bottom line. And 438-0203. She'll give you an appointment. I'll see you for free. I have a number of patients now with advanced kidney disease who I managed to stop the disease, and some even reverse the disease by getting rid of their diabetes. That's very well described in a book by Stephen Gundry. He's the cardiologist I spoke about at Loma Linda University, who didn't see hardly people past age 65 or 70, certain racial groups. It's not because they're a certain color, it's because they're eating the wrong food. It's through genetics and history. They don't know. It's our job to spread the word, which he is doing. Now he used to do surgery on newborn babies in their hearts and adults, transplants. So he knows a lot more than probably anybody in the world. And he decided, after looking at that for 15 years, you know what he decided? That's all self-induced. What the people had is what the parents were eating and what they're eating. So he decided to be a wellness doctor. In his book, too, starting around page 258 or so, he describes where people with advanced kidney disease can eat a certain way. He describes the kind of foods you need to eat. He calls it the advanced nutrition program, and he's had the same experience I had. You can prevent, stop, reverse a lot of renal disease. We don't know the total extent of that yet, but I'm doing it. He's been doing it. He writes, and he has a list of the foods that you can eat. And he also points out that, remember, a number of years ago now, and some of these guys, even friends of mine, and I did myself, was saying eating vegetables and fruit 80% of the time stops most disease. Well, we found out to eat the keto way, to eat good fats, is better than that, because the vegetables have in them quite a bit of sugar and have in them gluten, an abnormal protein, and lectins, which can cause significant disease. So the science has advanced a little bit. We're not being critical. We're changing with the science. Some people who wrote those books about eating 80% vegetarian diet, that's helpful. You'll be better, you'll be healthier, but they forgot to mention that fat can be good. Eating good fats. I'm not talking about bad fats, I'm talking about good fats. So the science is changing. So I like to encourage you also to gather more information. Look at my other YouTube shows, see me in person for coaching. But I feel this diabetes epidemic, pandemic, world pandemic, we're just touching it. Hospitals allowing you to have it. Industry is allowing you to have it. We, the doctors, who I think are ultimately responsible, have fallen for the whole thing. And not, the first priority should be get rid of your diabetes. You can do it in a few weeks. Mark Hyman and his famous books, good books to read, I don't have his here today, but good books to read, would say maybe 3 to 4 weeks you get rid of your diabetes. It's right in his books. I totally believe him. But I have some other books here today. The best book to me to read is by Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G. And he was a renal doctor from Canada, okay? And he noticed that almost all the patients he was treating were diabetic. But that's a disease that's stoppable, preventable, reversible the majority of the time. He learned that, he realized that, he quit his other job, and now this is what he's mainly doing, is prevent and reverse type 2 diabetes naturally. That's the bottom of his book. A beautiful book to read. He's even found, and this is wonderful news, that if you're diabetic and you've been on insulin 20, 30 years, okay, 30 years, and the reason that you've been on it, because your blood sugars are elevated, because there's fat in your liver, your fatty liver, and a fatty pancreas. But if you learn to eat right, the keto way, the fat leaves the pancreas, the fat leaves the liver, and the pancreas wakes up and you secrete insulin normally again. Right in this book. Right in this book. Read it. Jason Fung, The Diabetes Code. Preventing, reversing type 2 diabetes naturally. It's something I knew already, but I like confirmation. And you can go on YouTube, put in Jason Fung. He has a new YouTube show probably every 3-4 days. Watch those, read his book, and you've declared war on diabetes. And your weapons are information. Your bullets are information. I'm about information. So you need to gather some of that. Now suppose you are seriously overweight. Okay, and that's not a disease. We're blind to it, but the odds are you're diabetic. You say, "Oh, I'm not diabetic." Get that serum insulin. May need an insulin tolerance test where you swallow some sugar, and take it fasting 1 hour, 2 hour, sugar test, and if your insurance doesn't cover it or something, you go to a company called Any Test in town on the DuPont Road. They will do it very cheaply because I bargained for the price, which shouldn't surprise you. I get my blood test done once a year, put it in a book, put it on the computer, and if you get a disease, get it every 3 months, okay? Otherwise, once a year, but keep track of it. Also, your children. People can get type 2 diabetes age 3 or 4. Incidentally, also, I mentioned about gluten can cause type 1 diabetes, but also can milk. Yes, milk can do it because of the casein in it, a protein that attacks the pancreas. Read Whitewash, Joe Keon. Once you read that book, you won't be drinking cow's milk again. I've read it 2 or 3 times. It's brutal, full of scientific references. The government and the farm people did it to us, and we fell for it because we don't read. The medical profession should know better, but you notice people are drinking less and less milk, and that's the reason, because the science is getting around it. But it can cause type 1 diabetes. The gluten or milk, although they'll tell you, oh, it's an autoimmune disease. Well, okay. Now suppose you are indeed overweight. We spoke about that a little bit, and this is not a judgment-free zone. There is a lady, Susan Ryan. She wrote a book called Simply Keto, Beyond Simply Keto. I highly recommend you read this. It's full of recipes, tells you what good fats are, what good proteins are, what good carbohydrates, and it has wonderful recipes. And this is a picture of her. She lost 120 pounds, I think. And she's a beautiful girl. So she rewrote her genetic script. And I like it, especially if you don't have to be overweight to read it. But if you are, it's a little more motivating to see pictures of her. She has good online sites. Also, to look at pictures of the recipes, and they're delicious. Because I use them. What are ketones? We have sugar molecules, okay? Incidentally, we only have in our body about 2 teaspoons full of sugar. That's all. Yeah, that's all we got in our body. But suppose you're overweight. What happens is, if you eat properly, like would be here, which would be good fats, and reduce war and diabetes, I have in there 50 to 70% good fats. The foods are listed there, guacamole and olives, and with recipes, that's all written in there. But it's also written in Susan's book, and all these books I have here actually have recipes in them. 20% protein, and the rest fruits and vegetables. Yeah, it's not 80% vegetables in fruit, because of too many lectins, too much gluten, and actually too many sugary foods. Yeah, you want to learn what good fat is. 50 years they told us fat was bad. So and they were lying. They knew it too. It was industry that did it, government, sugar associations. They all were lying, and the processed food industry destroyed us. They've destroyed us, and all these, and then they put fructose corn syrup in them, because then things don't rot. Fructose corn syrup is used to give maintenance to the food. You can put it on a shelf and forget about it; it won't rot, because fructose corn syrup goes straight to the liver. Okay, but the beauty is, if you eat this way, the keto, now we have molecules of sugar, okay? If you start eating right, good fats, okay? Good fats, the insulin level goes down because the sugar level went down. And when that happens, the fat cells open up, fat cells go to the blood system and goes to the liver, turns into ketones. Ketones are energy molecules. They are smaller than blood sugar, okay? But they didn't know that till 10, 20 years ago, that ketones can be used by the brain for energy. They used to think our brain runs only on sugar. That's wrong. It runs even better on ketones. You can see why now when sugar and insulin will cause dementia, if that's not there and you're running on ketones, what do you think is going to happen to dementia? You're going to avoid it. So a ketone is an excellent way of eating, and you're going to detox from sugar very quickly, because if you're not eating sugar, your sugar level will drop very quickly, and you'll be into ketone metabolism within days. And that's why Mark Hyman, whose books, remember I said I recommend highly, Eat Fat, Be Thin, that's one of his books, okay? 10-Day Detox Diet, Mark Hyman. Yeah. Excellent book. 10 days, and you're not addicted to sugar. Would you believe that? 10 days. I ate this way, and it wasn't really, I was following any book. You hear a lot about fasting these days. I eat 2 meals a day because I'm not hungry. My first meal around 10 or 12, my other one at 6. What happens is, so then not even having this book here, War on Diabetes, I call it Rudy's 16-8, 16 hours I'm not eating, 8 hours I eat. And the body is repairing itself in this 16-hour period. The bad cells, you're getting rid of them. Some of the cells are repaired. And so when I get up in the morning, your own body secretes some adrenaline from the adrenal gland. The growth hormone is secreted from the pituitary up here, hypothalamus up here, and some glucagon from the pancreas. That's the opposite of insulin. That keeps your insulin level like this, because your insulin level is a certain level, your blood sugar is a certain level, and you're not hungry till around noon, and then you eat. Now, I would think you would, after we teach you what good food is, no starvation involved here, no diet restriction, food restriction, okay, in terms of quantity, okay? It's just type of food. It's about type of food. So my food pyramid looks like 50, 70% good fats, 20% protein, and the rest is fruit and vegetables, okay? That's what the food pyramid looks like. Your diabetes will be gone 3-4 weeks, maybe sooner. Hyman says in 10 days you're detoxed. Remember the other books that he read? And here's another one, Keto for Life by Mark Sisson. I just like you to know this is in many books. This is not a fad, this is real. I have many patients no longer have diabetes because, and they don't have heart disease, kidney disease, they're not getting dementia. So you need to gather some information, some knowledge, and I want you to do a little bit of reading, watch my other shows, see me in person if you have to, because this is, our hospitals were 50% closed down, but they're not interested in teaching this to you, because then those diseases would not happen. The hearts you see on the front of hospitals wouldn't need to be there. The dialysis unit wouldn't need to be there. We'd have so much less disease, save so much money. So watch my other shows. I have this show every 2 weeks to help you, and I do this because I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. I care about you. I love you, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I practice what I preach. And if you're brave enough, play me some pickleball. And if you're braver than that, tap dance with me. I did this today because I love you. Thank you for listening. See you next time.